This is an actual training from our Las Vegas mastermind event for our paying clientele within the mastermind. We have our next event coming up, which is in November in Dubai on the Palm, which is the 9th and 10th, Friday and Saturday. If you want the secrets to blow up your fitness business, we are going to be teaching you some bombshell stuff, in particular how to double your business over Black Friday alone. So hit the link below this video. You can get tickets now for the event. We have a maximum sit-in of 10 people who can sit in the room. Now enjoy the training. You guys will know Korby, his background in your sales history. So
yeah.
I'd say what would you say is your zone of genius? Can't list all of them, like top two.
The top two, based on the test, my social IQ is about 287. So I'm really socially intelligent from traveling a lot, so I can understand and read people very quickly because it keeps me out of danger. That's probably where I learned it in the hood. So I think that's my top skill. Then I use that to become a salesperson. But I didn't know that's what it was being, shaped for. That's how it turned out. So that's why I can sell it. I think anyway.
If we think about the sole basics of the business, one of the things we'll talk about tomorrow is like, for us to make money, you just need to book calls and close calls.
Well, if you want to grow your business, I would spend 50% of my time on sales because revenue drives everything else. If you don't have revenue, you don't have a business. So let me ask you a question. Who here has not brought a new client in the last 7 days? You? So we need to fix that. So no matter what, we need to create a system that would generate at least one customer every single week. Because if you generate one customer every single week, in about a year, you should have roughly 52 clients. But obviously there's churn and all that other stuff. But over time, as people keep renewing, that's how you that's how you backfill. So when months are slow, you're going to be fine. So that's the way I build business. So I build I only want a new client every other month. Reason why is because I do project work with clients. So I'm going to work with them for a year or 6 months, fix their issue, then move on, create a new problem so they'll call me back and rinse and repeat. And then I have my stable clients, like 12, who've been with me more than 10 years. Then I have one client on retainer named Tracy. She calls me whenever she wants. The agreement is if my eyes are open, I answer, and she pays me 60 grand for that privilege. So she calls me twice a year, just in case y'all want to know. So 3 things I need to tell you about really quick. If you're building a program, before I get into this stuff, there's 3 things you need to know about. So please write these down because it's going to help you make a lot of money. I just did a seminar in Phoenix, spoke for 3 days. I was tired of talking after 29 hours, but here we go. I'm gonna boil it down to 30 seconds. First thing you need to do is you need to have good content. When I say content, not the traditional, what Frank was talking about and all this other stuff, right? When I say content, I mean context. So you gotta have a person or a character or whoever you're playing in your story, you need to be that person in your story. So what I say is this. Social media is a mirage. It's the person that we want you to believe that we are. And that includes me. So even when people are being vulnerable, it's an angle. So I give you an example. Charlie. Charlie portrays himself online as a super hard worker, super disciplined, no nonsense guy. So that's the character he plays. But if you could suck him out to the beach, he's not that guy no more because he doesn't have to be that guy, right? Frank, super serious, super smart. But if you get Frank out of that context, he's very goofy, childish, good guy. Then if you take somebody who, let's say Brian Mark, he was the drug addict, and he keeps pushing that story all the time. I'm a drug addict, I was this. The reason why he pushed that story and that narrative, because that makes what he's doing seem greater. So when you create context through your content, that helps people move towards you. So one of my good friends, short version, came to me and said, Korby, let me get you this for your blah, blah, blah. I said, dude, I do those lives for my friends in New Brunswick. I don't care. He goes, really, you don't? I'm like, no. Those are for my friends who can't afford me. Give them a good word to help them out. That's it. Yeah, don't you want to make money from it? No. He says, why not? I said, because I really don't care. Because this is a public service for me. Because there are a lot of people who grew up with me who want to hear me talk all the time. So that's why I do those. And that's it. That being said, I make about $12,000 a month from those. because that wasn't my original purpose. So when you create the right context for your content, you will automatically pull people into your sphere that you wasn't really going after in the first place. So if you have clients and you get a lot of clients who don't fit, that's because your context is strong with your content. Second thing is community. What are you doing to build community? This one's, you're gonna laugh at me. Please, please don't laugh too much. I'm in a mastermind I pay $48,000 a year for. I want y'all to listen closely. We go on 4 trips a year. Every trip's 4 days. We don't even talk about business. Charlie's getting the money. It's 24 of us. He just tells us where we need to be. We have to pay to go there too. We don't have any structured meetings. We do man stuff like run around in the bushes, shoot each other, whatever, eat, outside, kill something, you know, whatever. And then we go home. And my mother said, Korby, how long you been at Mastermind? I said, I don't know, like 8 years. She said, what are you doing there? I said, good question, Mom. I don't know. We don't have no curriculum. She said, so you pay $48,000 for the privilege of being part of a community. Listen closely to what I'm saying. You will have people in your program who are fat, out of shape, won't do anything you tell them, and every time you renew, they'll renew. So if you build a strong enough community, people will fight to be in your community, even if they don't want to do what you tell them to do. So that's the second piece that I talked about on day 2. Day 3, we talked about clarity. So those are the 3 C's. Clarity means, why am I doing what I'm doing? So the easiest way I like to explain it in the hood, in our circles, we call it dating with a purpose. So I'm not just dating to be out here hanging out, right? So when you market to people, you market with the purpose. So you got to be clear on what's the end goal. So obviously for everybody is to sign up a client. Wrong answer. Right answer is the purpose of marketing is to generate loyalty. So when I do have a problem, I come to you. So here's a different way to explain it. If I have a really, really top level problem that I just can't solve, I will immediately call Art because he's a $1 billion financier. So I'm like, Art, look, I'm trying to do this real estate deal with my friends. I have no idea what's going on. Well, tell me about it, Korby. I'm like, dude, I don't know. Tell me to get them on the phone. That's how I sucker him to get on the phone with my friends. He gets on the phone, he goes through the deal with them and says, okay, change this, this, and this. That makes sense, Korby? I'm like, no, but am I gonna get hurt? No, good. Because I know his purpose is to just take over real estate. So that's why I go to him. So if you're in fitness and I have a fitness problem, who should I come to? It's only one answer. So you'll know this one. TOMA, T-O-M-A. TOMA stands for top of mind awareness. So watch this. What type of soda do you drink? Other than Coke Zero, what type of soda do you drink? Somebody's gonna probably say Coke or Pepsi. Somebody's gonna say some type of water, whatever, right? What type of toothpaste you use? Most of y'all gonna say Crest, Total, something like that. Because they have top of mind awareness, right? So if you're not TOMA for your clients, then you're in a coma, they don't think about you. So that's the purpose of all this content Frank's talking about and all that. The purpose of all of that is to, with your clarity of message, when I have a problem, I know who to solve it. So if I want good home cooking, I call my mother and say, Mom, I'm gonna be in New Brunswick on Sunday. Can you cook? Boy, I don't want to cook. We argue back and forth. I said, something just hit your Zelle account. Oh, I'll cook. Great. So now I get what I want, right? So, because I know she's the best cook for the type of food I want. If I want Chinese food, I go to a different person. If I want, you know, good apple pies or peach pies, apparently I'm supposed to go to Catherine. So I can't wait till I get those pies. That's another story. So when you look at each one of those things, look at your life. So when you're doing your content, you say, okay, when they move up this buyer's pyramid, when they get to that top part when they're ready to buy, they should be thinking about you. That's the reason why you want to stay in front of people. So with that, I'll get on to the sell stuff. So this is all gonna make sense. Here go my 6 principles of selling. Most of y'all know about tic-tac-toe in here. I teach it all the time. But the first principle is when you get on a sales call or a chat or anything, your first objective is to get a market that works. The second one, let me see here. So let's see, serve. Can y'all read that? No, that doesn't work. I should have checked the markers, folks. Let's try one more time. There we go. RVE. First objective on every call is to serve. When you do DMs, your objective is to serve. So the first thing you need to do when you're on a call, when you're processing, when you do any of that stuff, is to figure out, how can I serve you? Don't worry about what you want. So Zig Ziglar said you can have everything in life you want if you just help enough other people get what they want. And how that works is, don't focus on the money. Now, when you look at your metrics, when you're looking at the metrics, focus on the money. Focus on optimization. But when you're talking to just me and you, just focus on me and you. And if you do that, you'll see you'll convert a lot more. So even when you're doing phone calls, how many of you have been in this situation? You had a really terrible day, and then you have sales calls. How do those sales calls usually go? Terrible. So when you serve, service is and I hate this word, but I'll use it today, mindset. But, so I like to use the word paradigm. I think I'm spelling that right. Anyway, so paradigm is a fixed way of looking at something. So when you look at it, every time I come into a sales situation, I'm always looking from the paradigm of, what can I do to solve this person's problem? I'm pretty popular for like just having conversations. Somebody said, are you coaching now? I'm like, no, not right now. They said, I think so. When we're talking, you're coaching. I'm like, okay. Did you take notes? Are you gonna use it? I don't know. So because I serve at such a high level, it's always easy for me to generate income, because people always are looking for people who are willing to serve. So that's my first principle. You gotta learn how to serve. If you don't, it's not gonna work. So if you're too busy trying to get to the cash and the payment in any of your interactions, if you skip steps, it doesn't work the same, right? So after you figure out how you want to serve them, here's the most important thing. Can I help them? Right? So this one's flexible. Here's how it works. If I need to pay my rent, yes, I can help you. And a lot of people come from that paradigm, because you're saying, I need to close this call. I need to get this person so I can pay my bills. So help can come from a place of service or desperation. So, how many of you been on a cold streak ever when you're selling? Nobody ever, just 3 people? All right, so my record is 58 no's in a row. Yeah, it was crazy. Doing in-home sales every day, 58 in a row. And then on 59, and like the next 14 or 15 people say yes, back to back. So, because when you are desperate, people can feel that. So what I call it is my dog test. If I come to your house and you didn't train your dog to hurt people, your dogs will like me. I like dogs. Dogs like me. 5 minutes later, my mother walks in, who's terrified of dogs. All the dogs will either avoid her or growl or do something, because they can't hear her, but what can they do? Read her, feel her energy. So that energy on the phone is going to move people towards you or away from you. So sometimes we get all jammed up on, what was step 5 and this and 6, and none of that really matters. Because if people genuinely, sincerely believe you're going to help them, they'll buy your stuff. And to prove that, Rita's not here, so I shared a short version. About 2.5 months ago, I spoke to a guy who saw one of my lives on Facebook. He says, you're Korby Waters, I know about you. I'm like, okay, great. He said, can we chat sometime? Sure. Got on the phone with this mindset, found out that I could help him. About an hour, he wired me $190,000. And he never talked to me before, ever. He heard about me from 2 people who were old clients, but that's it. But I didn't go into that call with the idea that I'm going to sell. But after he said, I got a $24 million business, my prices started going up as the conversation. So I'm not a dummy, but by the time I got done, he thought 190 was almost too cheap. So I said, okay, we got on these back-end services to help you with this other stuff. So that's why when you're helping people, I always say, and people laugh at me, you got to have your 100% price, your 150 price, and your 75 price. And this is percent, right? So this is your main offer. So most of the time you're going to offer that price. But if I find out that Brittany is broke, but I really want to help her, I'll offer her this price. Because at the end of the day, and this is just between us, it's just a damn password. How much that cost? Charlie, I want access to your programs. You send me an email, I get the passwords. How much I have to pay for that? How much time it take you? Nothing. So for doing nothing, if my program is $2,000, I just made $1,500 to do nothing. But see, here's what we get caught up in. Ego. Because I'm famous, I'm this, I'm that, I deserve that. No, we're giving away electrons. You deserve to collect some cash. That's the way I look at it. If you get on the phone with me, you will not get off the phone with me without giving me some money. Even though that's not my goal. But I'm still gonna give me some money. That's super important. So you gotta have price tiers to make things work. And then I call it a DBO. Please don't say this in public ever. A DBO is a deadbeat offer. Those are people who claim they really want to work with you. So you have a really low price, low ball product that can give them the basics of what you do. I suggest you take out some sets, some reps, so you can get some progress, but not a lot of progress. And they feel like, okay, I probably need to do this other program. Give them some basic nutrition guidance, but not all the nutritional guidance. So here's a little shortcut for everybody. It's a site called Darebee, D-A-R-E-B-E-E. D-A-R-E-B-E-E. They got everything you can possibly ever want about programming, and it's free. But I'm gonna ask you, send them $10. So here you go. So now you gotta learn how to understand, right? Something like that, whatever. So you gotta learn to understand. So here's where people get messed up when they're selling. So in the middle part of the tic-tac-toe, until you understand their problem, and here's what's important. If you get 3 major problems, that's enough to sell them. So 1 gets their attention, 3 makes them realize they're sick. Here's the issue with some of y'all pain masters. So y'all go here and here, then they realize it's critical and nothing you do can help them. So you make them too sick. So you gotta get, okay, 3 key things, okay, that's enough. But if you get them too sick, they won't do your program because they don't believe your program can be successful because so many things are broken, I can't fix them. So then you start answering all these objections, but what about this, but what about that? So 3 is the right amount of number, is the right number because 2 reasons. What is the shape of the pyramid? Pyramids, generally, triangle, right? The most stable structure in nature is a triangle. A triangle is the only chair or stool you can take and sit it anywhere. Doesn't matter, hill, uneven, even, nothing. But when you take like 4 legs, 2 legs, 1 leg, 5 legs, doesn't work the same. So even when you watch animals in nature, they have a triangle profile when they stand. You'll see them stand with their feet together like this because it balances everything. So triangle is the magic equation for me. And what I've learned over the years, if you give them 3 critical problems and you understand those pains, that's what's gonna help you. So I know somebody's thinking, so what questions do I ask them, Korby? Well, let's think about it. What are you selling? This is where y'all jump in.
Weight loss products, most people.
Yeah, weight loss. So what's in your opinion, what is one of the biggest issues with weight loss?
Mindset.
Mindset. So we got MS here, right? What's Charlie owns the company. He shouldn't be talking right now. Like, help. I mean, these are for y'all. Nutrition, right? What else? Working out, right? So you should never ask any questions that's not involved with those 3. So I should never be like, so when do you go on vacation? Unless that's before I even start the call. That's the build rapport. But once you start, all your questions need to be around here so you can develop their pain, right? So when you develop their pain, when you go down to do your presentation, you take those points and you integrate them back into your presentation and you spend, this is important, 90% of your time talking about their problems. Because they already know your solution before they get on the phone, between all the freaking ads and everything you did. They already know, really. So when you do the triangle, you really want to focus it on what their issues are. Because then they feel like, oh, they can help me. Goes back to this. But you can't get to this step if you don't come in with this mindset. So there was this guy, he was a genius. He started marketing at 30, right? And he worked with like 12 people, like really, really close. And he served them really, really diligently for like a number of years. And then when he left, he told those 12 people, look, go out to the world and teach them our system for being free. That system has been so successful, they reached 4 billion people. So when you look at that, a service mindset will get you way further than greed. So that's super important. So I've always come from that mindset because I believe in abundance. You know, I believe everybody can eat. That's what we say in the hood. So if everybody can eat, there's no need to be greedy. There's enough to go around. So that's why you build your tribe of people who are looking for you and build that paradigm that you're the only one who can solve my problem. If they're a police officer or law enforcement, Drew, that should be you. They shouldn't be thinking about anybody else. Because I only know one other person who does what you do. But he's in New Zealand and he charges like $50 a month. So it doesn't matter, right? So after you understand, so this is where it gets good. So you tell them. So you start to tell them, you know, here goes some ways we can help you. You start to hint that you have a solution. I call this the lingerie part of the clothes. So you think you can see something, but you can't, right? So that didn't come out right. So you give the illusion that they're starting to get a solution and they get hope. So this is the part of the call where you help them have hope. See, because without hope, right, there's no sell. Hope is the most important thing you can give them because only way you can get them to the point of hope is if you come from a place of service. And if you're not coming from a place of service, nobody wants you to help them in the first place because then they can see here, which is greed. That's why you need to have pricing structures so you don't sound greedy and desperate. So that's the way that all works right there. So you got to serve them, you got to help them, you got to understand them, then you got to tell them what you want them to do, starting to get into that whole thing, right? So tell me more, and this is where you start to look at roadblocks, stalls. So you try to get your excuses before you ever even tell them about the product. So I go, let's go 5 months down the line. If this happens, what are you going to do? What stops you from being to where you want to be now? Why aren't you there now? When you start asking these questions, you're going to start figuring out the real reasons why they're not in shape. So this is more ammunition for over here when you start to break down your triangle. So now, after that, you give them a summary. You tell them. Do you tell them? So you tell them what you want to tell them here. Then you tell them through your questions. And then now you're going to tell them what you told them. And then you get to this part. You teach them how to utilize your product. So this is your triangle, whatever model you use. So that's when you get to tell people, you know, this is how we do it. We got this. Now, here's the most important part. You should try to answer all questions in this phase. Notice I didn't say objections. Who wants a secret way to force people to ask you questions?
Say, what questions do you have?
What questions do you have for me? They will always have a question. If you say what question, they say, do you have any questions? They're always going to say no. But you say, what questions do you have for me? They're always going to ask you a question. So now here's what's going to happen. It's going to go back to these 3 things, right? Keep them on task. So this is where you start to get all the fears, the doubts, the blah, blah, blah. So now if you go through all of that, that's going to help free up your time to do the last part. You show them your process and how to pay. So the process works like this. It's 3 key parts. There's the plan, there's the tools, and then the help. So the first thing you do is tell them your plan. What's going to happen here? So when I get here, I use assumptive language, right? So use assumptive language there like this. When we start next week, we'll jump on the call. When we start next week, we'll jump on the call. We'll come up with a plan for you to get exactly what you want. We'll go deeper into these issues here to help you find out exactly what we need to do to customize a plan just for you. That makes sense? Yes. Great. So here go my tools. I use Trainerize. What is it? Kahunas. What is it? Kahunas or whatever you use. This is what we use. We got, whatever the tools are, you help. But here's the most important one. Help. Because most people buy your product, or most people buy products in our industry and then they get left high and dry. So if you do this right, your chargebacks will never get higher than 3%. And your refunds will never get higher than 3%. Because when people don't get results, they're always going to know deep down inside it was their fault, not your fault. So here's the trick. When you do your triangle, you're going to go through nutrition, workouts, accountability, right? So I know what you're thinking. Well, I told them all about it here. Tell them about it here again. Maybe just a tad bit shorter, but pretty much the same. Here's the reason why. How many of you have ever been in a relationship that lasted longer than 2 years? Raise your hand. Okay, about to. Yeah, okay. Here's what happens. Is there something that your partner did that annoyed you, and even after 2 years, they still do the same thing? By show of hands. Did that happen? Now watch this. Isn't this funny? Why in the heck do we think this person after one time will completely understand how you're going to help them? Because they're under pressure now. They realize like, okay, it's money involved. I know something's coming. So they're kind of hazy. So the last thing you want them to know is that they will have help. That I'm here to serve you. So now when you ask for money, it's going to be, I can't answer that right now. So once they realize that and they see your process, then you just tell them how to pay you. And you use one of these 3 structures based on your conversation. Does that all make sense? I wrote that while we was on lunch, by the way. So I had to change it and make it shorter. So there you go. So if you take the 6 steps, serve, help, understand, tell them, utilize, and process. After you ask for money, what is the next thing you should do?
Take the money.
Well, that's obviously. But after I say it's 10,000 or this,
Oh, shut up.
shut up. So this is my new shut up system. So SHUTP. So until you shut up, you're not gonna make no daggone money. So this is where people get crushed in sales because they talk too daggone much. But if you learn to shut up and ask the right questions and structure in a way where you're looking to serve people, and by coming from mind of service, you'll see the places where you can help them. And because you're learning where you can help them, you'll understand what's the best way to proceed with that. Then you start telling them about the possibilities of changing. So now they can utilize your service so they can pay you and you can be free. Thank you. Now, any questions?
Can you explain how the 100% and the 150%, like when you
Okay, how much?
pitch the big dog,
It's okay.
is that an upsell?
Y'all can't read this anyway, it don't matter. I was gonna leave it like, y'all can't read this scribbles. So how much your product?
4K,
For how long?
6 months.
Yeah, don't call me, I can't afford that. So 4,000, right? So what's 150% of 4,000? 6, there you go. And what's 75% of it? 3, right? So here's what happens. You're on the phone with me, and you realize he probably can't afford my service, but I like him. So you already have this already sketched. That's a reason for that. You got to have the prices written because under pressure, you got to start doing math that doesn't work. You start looking like my mom's who's scared of dogs. It doesn't, no good. You ain't getting that sell. So what I do for every price offering I have, I do 1 pay, and I put that in giant letters because that's what I want to mentally focus on. Then I do 2 pay. So this is what I always offer. But I always make the 1 pay sexier than 2 pay. So it's $3,000, or you could do 2 payments of $1,600. That's $3,200, right? So you go, which one's best for you to get, and this is a good question for fitness people. Which one is best for you to get started on your fitness journey today? And by saying it that way, they're thinking like, oh, they mean now. Okay, great. So I tested it with 3 of my other clients. 1 client went up a real 13%, 1 went up 17%, and 1 went up 9%. But they was already closing at 65% anyway. So words make a difference. So now, usually when you get objections, right, you got to have 3, you got to have 4, and you got to have 5 already written down, all your prices. So that way you can negotiate. So here's my new money objection strategy. Hey, Jack, you can't use this. You got to give me $1,000, Charlie, before you can use that, all right? So here you go. People say, give you any type of money objection. I go, okay, What were you thinking of paying? Do you need different payment terms? I say, hey, but I'm a little nicer though. I go, because I want to pretend I'm still serving at this point. So I go, is it okay if I ask you a question?
Yeah.
Great. Are you looking for different payment terms?
Yeah.
How many payments were you thinking about making?
6.
Fantastic. And I just tell them, six payments of 600. Would you be using Visa or MasterCard today? That's it. I say I take Visa, MasterCard, American Express, and Discover unless I discover you have no money. I don't know why it's still funny after 30 years, but they always laugh. Go ahead, questions?
Another kind of answer I get to that from your answer is like, well, normally I've got to run it past my missus if we spend over £1,000.
Mm-hmm.
So like my only kind of rebuttal to that is, well, should we put down a deposit now, and then that'll hold the space?
No, watch this. So what you're saying is you need different payment terms, right? Your missus will let you spend 1,000, correct?
Yeah.
Okay, great. So we're only going to make the payment 700 because 700 every month. You never got to tell her.
So what I like to do in that situation,
That works really well.
if you ask them like, what's the minimum you're allowed to spend without asking your wife for that, have to ask for permission. Because if you're speaking to a guy that's massively emasculating, they have to ask their wife for permission to spend their own money. So it's like, fuck, am I asking this? Or like, and then you've got, right? So I got to try that because they suddenly see they're stopped and they're like, fuck, and they think, and they're like, I can't do this.
So here's what I could tell you. If I look like Brittany, Catherine, I forgot your name. Chelsea, Charlie, and what's your name? Megan. So if I look like any one of y'all 5, I'm 100% certain I'll be worth $80 million. Here's the reason why. Listen close, women. Women can beat other women up on the phone. And women can beat up men. And it's cool. What are you, some type of wuss? A woman can say that to a man. You really got to ask your wife? My husband does ask me for anything. Did you really got to ask your wife? Really? What kind of arrangement is that? Oh, I thought you was the man. I'm sorry. So now they get pissed and buy what you want, right? A woman can, now I can't ever say to a woman, oh, you really need to ask your husband? Because now I sound like what? A jerk. But when you're a woman, you can get away with a lot of this. That's why in America now for pharmaceutical sales, 93% of all the people selling pharmaceuticals now are women. Because women like to see other pretty women and men like to see pretty women. So they get into the offices and they can sell stuff. So as a woman, I wouldn't even be here, honestly, because I'd be making so much money, it'd be crazy. So, and this is further proof of that. When I used to sell on the phone full time, like back in 93, 94, I used to make $7,000 a week on the phone. And I would see my clients like a year later in person, and they would always go like this, Korby, how you doing? Like, what? We just made like $9 million for you. What? You surprised? They always try to clean it up. They go, I thought you was taller. Right. Because I got my phone voice, right? So the idea is when you're closing, if you're a woman, you can use that to your advantage. If you're a man, you always have to be kind and nice to women. Super important. If you're really nice, hey, I could totally understand, hit them with this right here. So I go, do you really have to? I said, so the next one they go, well, I really got to talk to them. I said, okay, if you talk to them and they say no, what do you do? Neil, what do you do?
I'm not at that. I'm not at that.
Yeah, but if you talk to them and they say no, what are you gonna do?
Well, you've lost them. They say no.
No, they say, well, then I won't do it. Great, now we need to talk to them. Because that's their way of saying I can't make the decision. See what I'm saying? But if you don't do that, they could be just BSing you. Because here's what I know. If I'm with you and you wanted to buy something and it's $3,000, we got an agreement, you could spend $2,000. What happens when you come home with something with $3,000? What are you gonna do?
I'm gonna be annoyed.
Huh? You're gonna be annoyed, right? Yeah. But she's gonna keep her Chanel bag, right?
Yeah.
Now, wait. Now you come home with your fishing equipment for $3,000. And she gets annoyed, what's gonna happen?
Yeah, time.
So listen closely to what I just said. Don't miss that. Because a woman can bat their eyes and do whatever that weird stuff they do with their face and then boom. he forgets what happened, and they keep it. I'm telling you, like I've been selling for 30 years. I used to knock on people's doors, old school, sell them. And the guy would be like, I'm like, why you keep looking at her? Like, would you want to say something? Well, I want it, but I got to make sure she wants it. So here's what I learned. Men are definitely the head of the household. Let me break it down to you. Relax, women. Don't kill me. Don't kill me. So this is the head of the household. But then it's this important piece here, the neck, right? So no nutrients get to the head without the neck, right? So the women, they're the neck of the situation. I just get to say something. But the woman usually makes a decision. In 83.2% of cases of purchases of more than $1,500, a woman will be making the decision, according to Gallup poll 2009 September issue. So there you go. So if you know these things, right, when you deal with spousal objections, first thing you got to do is take them down the payment funnel. So what's the max you can spend without talking to your wife? 1,000. Great. We'll do 700. Because you probably got a payment option that's under that number. So just say, and boom. So then if they come back with, oh, but I still need to talk to her. Why? It's under the threshold. That's what you just told me. Is something else that I'm missing that you didn't tell me yet? Very important question. You're not calling them a liar, but you are. Is there something else you forgot to tell me that's important? Well, that's $3,000 total. So you can only do the 700 once. So I always ask them this. Men hate this question, by the way. I go, if your wife buys something that's way over 700, does she take it back? If she didn't talk to you, do you make her take it back? Why are you laughing? Because you already know what's going to happen. She's going to do the batted eyes, and then all of a sudden, she keeps it, right? And women know that. They know the exact strategy to make their husband forget that they paid too much for something. We just don't know the strategy the other way. So we'll use that to your advantage. So I said, okay, so you can't spend $700 a month to change your life? How much would it cost for surgery? That's a real, because at this point, either they BSing you, which at that point I stopped caring. So I'm no longer in service mode. I'm in Wolf of Wall Street mode, right? Because I don't really care at this point because I'm like, all right, he's BSing me. But if they aren't, I go like this. I'll talk to you and your wife, or you and your husband, and give me any date, doesn't matter. Say something crazy.
2 weeks long.
2 weeks? Fantastic. Now, in 2 weeks, when I talk to y'all, are you sure you're going to be available?
Yeah.
Great. Do you really want to do the program?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah.
Great. This is what you tell your wife. Listen closely to what I'm about to say. Write this down. If you really want to get in the best shape of your life, you need to write these next things down. They're going to say, sure. Great. Here's what you tell your wife. Nothing. Can you do that?
Yeah.
Because here's what she's going to ask you. I talked to this guy. I want to get in shape. This is what I want you to say. I talked to this guy. He wants me to get in shape. It sounds like it could be really good for me, but I don't want to make a decision until you hear about it too. So I've set up a call for us to jump on the phone with him at this such and such time. Does that still work for you? Right? She's going to say, yeah, because she wants you to look sexy too. And I say, then you say this. Say, because I want to be the sexiest man you've ever seen. That's going to work. Because if women say that to us, we buy anything, it doesn't matter, right? So I figured it worked for you. So when you say that, she's going to be like, I don't know, Brad, you tried this before. But I feel different now because I want to be a better man for you. She's going to be like, sure, I get on that phone call. Boom, right? So now they jump on the phone. You flip it. Got to have my wife, so she says, I got to have my husband on the phone. Great. I say the exact same things. And then you say, I said, the last thing you say to them is, I don't want to compete with other women. I just want to compete for your attention. I want more of you. And every man's going to say, sure, I get right on the phone. Because you got to understand human psychology. Because if you make the man feel like he's going to be the king, he's going to do whatever you want. Because we're dumb. That's just the way it's set up. Then if you make the woman feel like she's going to be the queen, she'll do whatever you want. So you got to control that conversation with them before they talk to them. And she's going to say, well, what's this all about? You should say, well, he's been doing it for 30 years, and I will only mess up what he tried to tell me. And if I mess it up, you're going to say no. Because what I've learned is I can tell you enough to say no, but I can't tell you enough to say yes. So with my health on the line, I don't want to take a chance. They always get on the phone. Then you get on the phone, right? I know you're saying, so what do I say when they get on the phone? Do I tell them the price? No. You start right here. Start with your triangle like you never did it before. And you just talking to whoever the spouse is. Don't even talk to them. And you say, when I get on the phone, don't say anything unless I ask you a question. Can you do that? Yep. So I go through my whole thing, get all the way back here. I said 6,000, whatever, blah, blah, blah. And I said, hey, what I've learned is that married couples that kind of work together and get in shape together, they stay together. Does it make sense? She said, yeah, yeah. So we're going to offer a spouse in the house discount, and only for $1,000 more, I'll give you the $6,000 program that your husband is getting today. So we could do $7,000 or 2 payments of $3,600 for you to get in the best shape of your life, right? And they're going to say, so what? Here's a little trick. If you really want them to sign up, you say, hey, it'll only be $7,000, but could you do me a favor? They're going to say yes. That's called a pattern interrupt. When you get in the best shape of your life, would you promise to take a boudoir photo and hang it on your wall so you can always see what you're looking like at your best? Yeah, I'll do that. Great. They just said yes, right? Perfect. So that'll only be $7,000 or 2 payments of this much. Which one's best for y'all to get started on your fitness journey today? You can say y'all if you're in Atlanta, North, or South Carolina. Everywhere else for the both of you. So there you go. That's it. And usually, if you close with the spouse in the house discount, I'll call it, if you do that, about 40% of the time, both of them will join together. Any other questions about objections or anything in here? Anything about sales?
Do you have any way to lower sales friction? Because I think that's what people say. Like, from what I see, people struggle with just like tension on the call before they start.
Who uses music to get in the right mindset? You? Yeah. Okay. Great. I use the same song all the time. Just every time I'm about to start sell, I put this song on. I dance for like 5 minutes, and I get on the phones. So find something that'll help you get in the state, right? Because emotion, which is invisible, that's ironic. So emotion, right, takes some kind of motion. So you could put, so emotions really just means energy in motion. It's just a contraction. So you got to put yourself in the right frame of mind. So for me, one of my favorite songs is Win, 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 Win. I don't really listen to the lyrics because those lyrics are not glorifying, but yeah, but the song is great to get me fired up, right? So I still listen to the old Rocky theme song. I listen to Earth, Wind & Fire's Fantasy. I listen to some EDM music, Animals by Martin Garrix, Tsunami by, so I listen to some of those things, and then I listen to some classic house music. I throw some cornstarch on my floor and dance, because I used to be a competitive house dancer. So these are the things I do. And usually my mother comes over, I said, but what the hell are you doing? I said, I'm paying your rent, Mom, shut up. Okay, then she leaves me alone. So figure out some kind of ritual, and then I repeat to myself right before I get on the phone. I say, no matter the outcome, if I serve them, I win. And that's that's my mantra, no matter the outcome. And I keep saying it to myself, if I serve them, I win. Because there have been many, many times where I've gotten a no from Brittany. And I said, Brittany, based on everything you heard today, do you got any fat friends? No, I don't say fat friends. I said, do you got any friends who you think my program would be a fit for? She goes, yeah, Connie at church could probably use your program. Is it okay if I call? I give her the same world-class service I gave you. Give her some great tips to get in shape. And then when Connie signs up, I call back Brittany, right? And say, Britt, she signed up. So because she signed up, I'm going to give you a bit extra 50% off so y'all can do it together. Because remember, what are we giving them? Password. So when you get all caught up on, I'm worth this, I'm worth that, let me break this down to you. How many of y'all making $1,500 in 6 seconds? I'll wait. None of y'all, right? So here's the worst case scenario. Even if you do live check-ins, let's say you do one a month. for 4 months. How long are they? 10 minutes? Who here makes $15 every 40 minutes? See, like, because I remember when I used to work when I was a kid, I made $7.15 an hour. And I was the manager. So this is way more than that. But what I do is, and this is something that's important for everybody here. Think about the past version of you versus the current version of you versus the future version of you, right? So Bob Proctor taught something like this. You got X, then you got Y, right? But we have X-type conditioning. That's what your mind can believe. So as you move through this stuff, you're going to reach different levels where you're going to hit a barrier, right? He calls it the terror barrier. So that's when I learned about paradigms years ago from Bob Proctor when I was in his coaching program. He talked about paradigms need to be shifted. But here's what I've learned from studying Neville Goddard for years and years and years. You create a vision that's so compelling that tears come to your eyes. So at least 3 times a week when I'm doing my visualization, I literally start crying because I can really feel it and touch it. So you use all 5 senses, and then you really, really dial in on that and try to hold that mental picture for as long as you possibly can. Then once you do that, what you do is look at yourself and say, what actions do I need to make this ideal become real? So as you move further and further down here, your actions will become more precise because you know more information. But if you live from that vision of who you're trying to create, that's what you'll eventually become. Because one of my biggest dreams, I'll share it with y'all. I always wanted to make $1 million in a year as a coach. Like strictly as a coach, not other stuff. And I've been a coach for 30 years plus, right? So a long time. But this year is the first year I ever made $1 million in 1 year as a coach, only as a coach. Now I've made more than this from like training and all this other stuff and selling companies and all that other stuff, but from actually just talking to people, listen closely to what I'm saying. What do y'all mainly do? Talk to people. And I said $1 million, Korby, how many employees you got? 2. One works 22 hours and the other one works 41 a month, not a week. That's it. Because you set up systems, but it took me 30 years to get to this. But I started seeing this person 30 years ago. See, because here goes some metaphysical stuff for y'all. Wallace T. Waddle talks about the law of gestation. Who's familiar with that? So gestation is how long something's going to take. So if you're a human, it's going to be about 40 weeks to have a baby, right? If you're an elephant, it's going to be about 2.5 years. If you're a Drosophila melanogaster, or AKA fruit fly, it's going to take 4 days. Chicken, 21 days. Here's the thing that's the difference between us and the universal intelligence. Universal intelligence can guess perfectly. So Elohim can guess perfectly when something's going to happen. But I'm not Elohim. So I can take the best educated guess on how long it'll take me to manifest something. But if I don't hit it on this particular day, that just means I'm not as smart as Elohim. So what I do is I just change the date and keep going. So the date may change, but the goal doesn't. So when I sell, I have key aspects. I vision myself, I do my dance, I look at my vision for about 2 seconds or 3 seconds or whatever it is. And then when I sell, there's always a picture here. And it has 4 pictures. My kids, my dream, my mom and dad, and then it's a picture of a giant crowd that I spoke to years ago. It was 25,000 people there. So the reason why I work is for my kids, right? The reason why I don't quit is because I have a dream. The reason I try to always do what's right because I never want to disrespect or disappoint my mom and dad. Sorry. And the last one is because that's how many people I want to affect. And I look at that all the time when I'm selling, because when you get some jerk on the phone and you're trying to serve, why am I really serving? Because I want to make sure that this gets fulfilled. So does that all make sense? So what's keeping you from becoming a great salesperson is you're not putting yourself in the right emotional state to be successful. And I literally spend a majority of my time visualizing who I want to become. And here's the thing, get married to the goal, don't get married to the process. Because you don't know the process. Because if you knew, it wouldn't be a goal, it'd just be a process. So if I said, Brittany, I want you to buy a $10 million house next year. You know how to do that?
Do I know how to do that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
How? You can't marry me right now. I'm saying, but to get to get the house though, how would you do that? $10 million. What would you do?
I'll marry you.
Like, that's a shortcut. I like that. But the trick is because you have let's say a $5 million home now. Most people say, hey, just need to double my input or double my output to get a $10 million home. That's not how that works. Because as you move up, $10 million home is not going to be twice as much. It might be 3 times as much because now you got more acreage, you got people, there's a whole lot of things involved in having a $10 million house. But I don't know that. But as I get closer and it starts to become more real based on my process, that's going to pull me in the direction of the thing that I want. So with the notable exception of one thing in my entire life that I really went after that I didn't get, this has been very good for me. And I mean, I have literally done everything I wanted to do up to this point in my life. Only thing I haven't done is I haven't been to Antarctica yet. So maybe next year I'll go on a cruise to go there. But I've been to all 6 continents. I've been to more than 90 countries. I've sat with more and had dinner with more than 15 prime ministers and presidents. I've talked to senators. I've been all over the world. I've been to Miss Universe and been behind stage and hung out with those people for weeks. I dated Miss Greece 2002. It's crazy. So, and that all comes from just visualizing and allowing the universe to pull me in the direction that I want to go. So when you build that mental picture and you go through these steps, if you keep that picture in mind, more people say yes, because here's what I learned. The guy that taught those 12 people years and years and years ago, he had a huge vision on where he wanted them to be ultimately. So one day they got discouraged, and this is going to happen to all of y'all. One day they got discouraged, and he said, in my house there are many mansions. If it wasn't, I would have told you. And I thought about that. I said, why is it many mansions? Why is it not one mansion? Because in different parallels, because we're all running in a parallel. We're all the same age, right? So we're all running the 3rd dimension right now. So we all kind of have this existence all simultaneously happening. And depending on what decision you make, it's going to bring you to your ideal outcome. So how I get to my ideal outcome is by focusing on what I want. So when I do these steps, I don't get objections, because when I practice in my brain, I never get objections. So I don't really practice them no more, because I just practice my price one, which I told you earlier. Nobody ever gives me any resistance, because when I get on the phone, I'm trying to serve them and I have their goal in mind. So they feel like my vision for them is great, so they want to be involved in it. So the vision you paint for somebody, they'll get involved with you more quickly. Thank you.